Kristen, agenda item is number 1.
Yep.
All right. I submitted a narrative for the business. I assume maybe you have a copy. I have some copies. Pretty much, we're a dance studio. I won't read word for word, but we're a dance studio. We start ages 18 months through adults. We offer various styles of dance. We are petitioning to open at 166 Litchfield Turnpike. Our hours of operation is 4:30, 5:30 to like 8:30, 9:30. The reason why it's pretty not so much set in stone is because we operate 2 dance rooms at one time, and the times are pretty much staggered for like parking purposes. The class sizes are about 15 minutes. So if a class starts at 4:30, the second class will start either 4:45 or 5 p.m. And then each class is 45 minutes to an hour. I put here that there'll be 90 minutes because within the next few years they may increase to 90 minutes. But either way, there'll be the 15 to 30 minute grace period. Myself and my wife, Tia Brockington, co-own the T. Russell Dance Studio. We are the primary employees over on Litchfield Turnpike. We may have 2 to 4 employees stationed there throughout the day. It is not set as far as like one employee. It rotates. We'll just keep a staffing ratio, which say for the children. There'll pretty much be 1 to 2 instructors, 1 in each room, and then there'll be a front desk assistant. But if I'm working, then obviously I would save the money with not necessarily needing the other admin. Yeah, I will be taking on that position.
This is an ongoing business. That's right, sir?
Yes.
So is this a second location, or you'll be moving from your
Well, it depends on
present
the verdict of this meeting. My hopes is that we are approved and I can look into officially moving over there. But at this point, it's not set in stone until I can't even pretty much entertain the idea without having the approval of this committee.
And where are you currently working?
We're on 17 Hazel Terrace.
Okay.
But it is your intention that if we approve it, you're moving from Hazel Terrace.
It's going to take some time,
Oh, no, I understand.
but yeah, that will be the idea.
As opposed to running both of them at the same time.
Right. I mean, obviously, I'm going to run both for a while, but that is the ultimate idea. The reality is we want an area where it's not as busy, but that's pretty much the focus. Yeah.
Do you have a lease at your present location?
The 17 Hazel Terrace or the 166?
17 Hazel Terrace?
Yes.
And that runs through when?
It's currently running until May of next year. Possibly April,
Okay.
but it's springtime.
Other questions? I guess I had one. The focus is evenings and after school during the weekday. Is that
Exactly. I mean, we'll have some Saturdays, but it's primarily afternoon and evenings. As far as like the weekend goes, we're not open on Sunday, and currently we're not going to be open on Mondays either. But again, I'm not sure what that will look like in the future, so I just pretty much put Monday through Saturday on the application, so I don't have to come back and amend it.
I just had one question, I guess. Currently, you do a summer school, too,
Yes, currently we do a summer school.
so we should include that under what we're,
Well, yes.
so we want to make sure you're complete.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Mr. Brockington, what's the parking situation at 1666 Litchfield Turnpike? Is it better, worse, or the same as?
It's more convenient. It's more parking spaces. And I was told all the businesses pretty much are 9 to 5 businesses. So at the time we will be coming in, everyone will pretty much be closed. So it's kind of like exclusive to the parking lot.
Except potentially in the summer if you have a summer school.
Right, but
operation.
and again, that's drop off. It's 8 hours. Parents are trying to get to work at 8 o'clock. They're dropping their kids off and they're running to the highway. They're not staying by any means.
I've been in that situation.
I think there's a lot of people who park in that lot who actually are doing business over in the Katz's and Starbucks and that area. So some of the parking spaces that are in that area for 1666, I don't think are used only by those who are customers of or employees of that little strip mall. Which is a different issue, but I think it speaks to there being sufficient parking
Yeah.
there.
And as I recall, you've been before this commission before because there were some issues, not necessarily any fault of your own, with regard to residential neighbors of your present location. Those issues would not be present at the proposed new location, is that right?
Correct. And those residential issues were from a couple of the residents, primarily one. But again, there was never anything found wrong, if for lack of better terms. It was just complaints, basically, from the residential neighbors. But there are any at Hazel's at 166 Litchfield Turnpike.
Any additional questions, comments, concerns from the commission? So our procedure here is to put this for,
Usually we defer action on it till your work session. The only other application that you have is for the Church of New Haven at 918 Greenway Road, and that's just formally for you receiving it and scheduling it for hearing. It's for a freestanding sign. It's by special exception and just requires a hearing. So they're not even here to present because you have to have a hearing. So if you just defer that off to your October meeting, then you can go and act on this one.
okay. Other than saying thank you, do I have anything else
Nope.
for Mr. Brockington? Well,
Nope,
I will say
Well, there's nobody from the public to speak, otherwise you would normally just ask, but
for public comment.
yeah.
For, against. Rob, you listen well.
Yeah, I do. Thank you. And thank you for coming and
No, thank you.
I appreciate your presentation.
I'm going to take my pen. This is how I get along.
So officially, we are now,
As long as we've officially decided we're going to have a hearing on the sign, I'll post that, and now you're in your work session.
yes. So we shall move to the work session, and I appreciate the commission's indulgence for me while I'm learning the rules on the fly.
Don't we have to accept the application for the sign?
Yeah.
Is that what that was?
Yeah,
Okay.
Do I can do
you
a
can do it
formal?
by consensus, however you want.
Dance studios. We have to close the hearing?
There was no hearing.
I wasn't a hearing, okay.
That's just
Need
a
that.
regular permit from you guys.
Okay.
Okay, so just so we're all clear, we are now in work session, having deferred the church sign to our October meeting by consensus, which I saw nods around the table for that.
So I'll make a motion to approve the application for change of use at 1666 Litchfield Turnpike from dog care and training facility to dance studio.
Second.
Thank you for the motion and the second. Discussion amongst the commission. Does anyone have any additional thoughts,
I
comments?
like bringing more business into that site.
So do I.
I think it's great. I mean, got to be careful of the traffic trying to leave that facility and going left. That's always an issue from there.
That is an issue for both of those sites right down there. It's a tricky one.
Yeah.
But a great use, I think, of that location.
I agree.
Any further discussion? So I'll put it to a vote. All in favor of the guess, motion on the change of use from the dog care to the dance studio.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. Congratulations.
Good luck.
Good luck. And good luck. Yeah. Bless you. Next up in our work session, Christine, is a discussion of the Scribner error corrections to our zoning regulations.
Over the summer, we've had a few things come to light, and we probably will find a few more as we go through. One of the things was regarding roadside stands. In the former regulations, there was a provision that said that they could only sell items that were produced on the farm where the farm stand was. And the only place that we talk about roadside stands is in the table under allowed uses by zone on page 19, and it's silent on whether or not it has that limitation or not. And over the course of the summer, we had a question regarding it, and at that point, I forwarded the question to Alan and to Kathleen, and they both believed that it was a Scribner's error, that we hadn't had any discussion regarding changing out that provision. So the question is, if it is a Scribner's error, do we correct that and add that in as a note, that roadside stands have to sell only produce produced on that, on the farm.
So I will defer, not having been part of those conversations, I'll defer to members of the commission.
I don't think we were the only ones.
I don't remember. Were we the only ones on the email?
You two were and town council was, and he deferred to you.
I think it was just a
Yeah,
total oversight, that's all.
yeah, no intent to change
No,
that aspect of the
absolutely not.
regulations.
We weren't looking to open it up for,
Okay. Another error or something that came to light is on the following page under bed and breakfast. It's not permitted in the residential A or B district, but only in T3C, 3D, and BB. This is the table on page 20.
And it looks like reference 3.T1 under lodging.
And there again, I thought that it should also have been in A and B.
I think the regulation itself doesn't restrict it to any particular zone. It just had occasion
So we just
look
need to
at that.
clarify the table. Because the description is on page 33, and it just says bed and breakfasts are allowed subject to the following conditions.
Yeah, and those conditions are not that it should be restricted to any particular zone.
Right. So then on 3T1, it should be by special exception also for A and B.
Yes.
Because those are the other two.
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And then another one is under,
But before we move off, did everyone follow? I was following the bouncing ball and trying to keep up with the pages, that because the bed and breakfast has some conditions about only 5 bedrooms and parking and a few other things, but it had no restrictions on which areas. The fact that the table shows restrictions on which zones is the error that needs
Correct.
correcting.
So
Okay.
under A and B, it would say special SC.
Special SC as well in the table. Great,
and
thank you.
then on the following page, same table, page 21, under single-family residences, which is 3.3 CC1, we don't list single-family residences as a use in D, but in the regulations that this is replacing, both C and D did allow single-family as well as two-family houses. So again, I think it was just something that.
Yes.
And what part of the, not the table, but the written regulations, do you have a page?
It doesn't really have a page. This is more of just a table.
Okay.
So which one should it be in?
On page 21, under single-family, we should
Right.
also have a P under T3D.
Got it.
Gotcha.
That's what I was looking for. Okay. And what was the change on the farm stand one?
We were adding in the restriction that the only thing that could be sold was products produced
So
on.
that's not the table, that's the description on page wherever, I can find it.
382. 3.382.
I don't think that had,
This is like a bad
A
dream
page.
recurring, guys.
Page
because
20,
it's 3.382.
on page
Oh,
22?
Farmers market and roadside stands. So the only thing we had is that trash receptacles shall be provided.
Right, so we're adding a B.
Yep.
Okay,
Either that, or you can put a note on the table, take your pick.
or both.
Okay.
So it's only selling food produced at the site. Or whatever, items.
Whatever it
Produce,
was.
What the existing language had been.
got it. Thanks.
And that's all I had for now.
Where's the Woodbridge Village District?
Where is it?
Yeah, it was supposed to be added to 3. I don't see it in 3.
Oh, I thought we did.
Well, I don't know, maybe I missed it.
Yes, I remember we brought it.
Yeah, you found, Alan was waiting to the last minute to see who else would catch it.
I thought we added it in.
I see it on page 34. You.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay,
yep, there it goes on.
thank you.
So we did it. Yes.
Okay.
This was
No,
an amazing
Do
piece
we
of
have
work.
to vote on this?
No.
Or is it as a Scribner error, do we?
I don't think so, because when we approved
Right,
the new regulations, it was with the added condition subject to any and all
right,
further corrections
yep.
that need be.
Okay,
And I did ask town council, and he offered the same.
fine, that's no vote then.
I appreciate that.
So that's all I found so far, and that's just been from, in part, people, asking questions and looking at it, not me going through and saying, oh, wait a minute, that's, so, you all now have a hard copy, so if, in your copious spare time, if you want to look through it, if anything's glaring at you.
Oh, gonna read it again?
No,
No way.
And really appreciate the hard work and effort by members of the commission and staff, obviously, in creating this document and getting it to where it is today. Well, no. But it is appreciated, and a huge effort by this commission, and really something to be proud that you got it across the goal line and in such great shape. So, thank you.
The only other thing, I think the only person who may not have gotten it was Rob, because I goofed up his email. There is a Freedom of Information session later in the month that town clerk is putting on, so I can resend that out again if you're interested in going. She'd like to have people there, if at all possible.
Here?
It's here. I don't know that it's in this room, but I will get you, it's in town, yeah. But I'll get that information back out to you. I believe it's evening.
Please send it out again, please.
I will send it out again.
So next up in the work session is the report on the activities of the Southern Connecticut Regional COG.
Yep. I have, Since we were here last, there have been 2 meetings, both in July and August. At the July meeting, there were reviews of matters from the town of Wallingford, city of West Haven, town of North Branford, and town of Cheshire, all with respect to proposed zoning regulation amendments that were found to have no intermunicipal impact nor adverse effect on the Long Island Sound, which is the principal charge of the Regional Planning Commission. And then again, at the August meeting, there were matters from the town of Hamden, town of North Branford, and town of North Haven. 2 of them, the town of Hamden and town of North Branford, dealt with their proposed plans of conservation, updates to the same, and town of North Haven, a proposed zoning regulation amendment, again, that was found not to have any intermunicipal impact, nor any adverse environmental impact. So there'll be another meeting, I don't think it's this Thursday, probably next Thursday. That's it.
Thank you. Does our new package of zoning regulations need to have that sort of presentation to that group and have a similar?
It did early on in the process. I don't think it needs to be resubmitted, does it,
No,
Christine?
and they actually had no comment on it when it
Yeah.
went before them because it wasn't anything substantive in a sense. It was updates and clarifications of things
Okay.
and whatnot. But it did go to them in the process of the hearing on the regulations. So that was actually part of the motion that when we approved it, there was a phrase in there that said that we'd
Yeah,
sent it
it
to
did.
them.
It was more than a year ago. That,
Yeah, it was like June 2018. we went.
Great. Any other questions on that topic? The third topic on our work list is our own town plan of conservation and development. We are in
You're
year
halfway to having to do an update.
No,
It always seems like you just,
I don't want to go through that again.
So we're at year 5 on our 10-year cycle.
we're on year 5, yep.
It's 5 years since we.
Almost, yep.
So what is the cycle? Does the clock start when the new plan is adopted by the town?
The new plan has to be adopted within 10 years of when the prior plan
Was
had been
adopted.
adopted.
So when does the clock start? Did it start then when we started working on it?
No. when
No.
approved.
Adoption.
Oh, when it
When
was
it was
approved.
approved.
When the-
And it's really been 5 years?
I
Well,
can't
you're coming on to 2020, and that's 5 years. So,
I can't believe it. 5 years ago that we approved.
2020 is still a little ways.
not in terms of this stuff, so.
Considering how long it took us to come up with that one.
Was that worse
Okay.
than the regs?
No.
No, but we had lots of town meetings and there were charrettes and there was, oh my God, it just went on.
And the town meetings just showed how much people didn't remember that we had had all those town meetings and charrettes and public work sessions to find out what the community was looking for, wanted, their preferences were. There was no memory, I won't say awareness of, but no memory that we'd actually gone through that. But there were a lot of Saturday charrettes and evening charrettes and meetings and public comment and really trying to get input. And
Questionnaires that were sent out.
Yeah.
I remember some of that.
Yeah.
And how long of a process is that?
It was probably a minimum of a year, I think.
Yeah, it was over a year,
It was
because you
over
had
a
to
year.
first go through a selection. The commission chose to have a consultant assist them
Yep.
and whatnot, so there was that process of choosing a consultant, and then
My loan had been grown, I think.
you
Yeah.
hired McClone and Groom.
It was over a year. It was a long process.
It was about a year and a half.
Okay,
Not a simple thing.
we still got time.
So we have 3 years left.
Exactly.
But something to keep in mind.
Yep.
Appreciate that.
I think it would be a good idea if more of the groups in the town government played a role in it. Because I think that was definitely a part of the disconnect in the public
Yes,
meetings that
that's-
happened for the regs. So I think as long as we're starting to plan, let's put that on the table and say there should be greater buy-in and of the community, and I don't know where that starts, but certainly other commissions, other groups in the town government, I think play a role in that, or should play a role in that.
Absolutely.
It's a great idea and point and those commissions have their regulars and their constituencies that go there that may not know that a plan of conservation development is about the entire sort of vision for the town going forward, and it impacts and relates to the decisions that are happening in multiple.
I mean, in all fairness, I do remember there were people who attended our meetings at times who were from, I think, wetlands and from,
Recreation.
yeah. So there were people who attended, but like when we held the charrettes, I mean, I know I'm getting into the details, but, and I know some of the people on some of those commissions attended the charrettes, but my feeling is that there should be more formal involvement. I know this commission is in charge of it, but I think acknowledging or planning for more formal involvement wouldn't be a bad thing, besides just attending our meetings and giving their input then.
And you should know that the Board of Selectmen has been going through, and I think Joe can attest to that, been going through the list of things, because, at the back of the Town Plan of Conservation and Development, there's who's supposed to be recommended to address what within the town plan. And so they've been focusing on the tasks that were put to them, and I believe also encouraging some of the other boards and commissions who had tasks laid out within that to do that. So it may not hurt to send a reminder out to, from you guys to those boards and commissions and say, or send them a copy and say, we're midway through our town plan. This is what we had in mind for you. Is this realistic? Or can you think of things down the pike that you think we should change or add?
I think I saw some reference to that in some materials, the public materials shared from town hall over the summer. But
Yeah.
that's a good
It was
thing.
in one of the newsletters.
Yeah.
So that's there.
Thank you. We're heading down towards the bottom of the agenda. There's
Yeah.
something called correspondence received.
So in your package, you had a copy of the newsletter from the Connecticut Federation of Planning and Zoning Agencies. And there's always something interesting in there, so that's there. And other than that, it's been a pretty quiet summer that way.
Quiet summer is not a bad thing. Any other?
I was asked by the board, Terry and I were both asked by the Board of Selectmen to come to a meeting in October to go over the regulations with them, just so that they can be acquainted with, what's changed with them. So I don't know if Terry will be back by then, but I'll be going. And next week, Zoning Board of Appeals is having a meeting, and they're just, again, as staff, we're going to go over the regs with them, just so that they're familiar. And actually, they may have a little bit less to do since you removed the second front yard setback from the road center line. So that may give them less business. So
And that was a big business maker for them.
it was something, we're not really too sure why it was ever added in, but it made virtually all the houses along Amity Road become non-conforming, except for the newer ones that were built, because from the road center line, you had to add an extra 50 feet, and that was okay while Amity Road was wide, but when it narrowed down to just 2 lanes, by the time you added that 50 feet plus the 75 feet, it threw most of the houses along Amity Road and other roads like Baldwin that were older developed roads into being non-conforming. And so it was a good thing. couldn't figure out what the purpose was. So,
Okay. So it looks like the last item on the agenda is the approval of minutes, and I hope folks had in their packets the minutes from the June 3rd, 2019 meeting. I will entertain a motion for approval of those minutes.
I have a couple stylistic, surprise, surprise, errors. So I'll just give you mine, like extra words and that sort of thing. But nothing substantive in content.
Anyone else have any substantive or or stylistic edits? Or since I was not here, I will not be voting on this one.
Same with me.
Okay. Do we need a formal motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Thank you. A second. Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Any additional comments or edits other than stylistic ones, which Kathleen will provide for the record? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And an abstention? Looks like 3 abstentions.
okay.
Great. So let's keep it efficient. Motion to adjourn? Seconded.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all.
Keep it going on.